Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our regular meeting of October 28th. For the record, it is 1:02. If you call roll, please.
Chair BARRONE.
Present.
Councilmember Pilar.
Here.
Councilmember BARRONE.
Here.
Councilmember Jani.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here. Okay. Mary, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just remain standing for a brief moment of silence. I know that we have Veterans Day coming very shortly upon us, and just remember all those veterans in our community and the veterans that we have lost that protected and served in our community. Thank you. We have approval of the agenda next, Council. I would recommend, if we could, under Town Manager's report, if we could move that up right after the awards and recognition. Mr. Bellis would like to leave to go to the infrastructure conference that is now in process. So if we could do that.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman.
I'm okay with that, but I'd also like to move with council's discretion items 10A, B, and C up right after manager's report, also for items of consent.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not call for the vote.
Councilmember Jani.
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Pilar.
Yes.
Councilmember BARRONE.
Yes.
Okay. So we have approval of the minutes, October 7th, 2014, special meeting minutes. Council?
Move to approve.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Jani.
Yes.
Councilmember Pilar.
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Jani.
Yes.
We go to item B, October 14, 2014, regular meeting minutes. Council?
Move for approval.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Pilar.
Yes.
Councilmember Jani.
Yes.
Councilmember BARRONE.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we'll go to awards and recognitions. And I'm going to turn to the chief. Chief, we have a great honor. And turn to you for this.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. Jani, can you come over, please? And also Jani's family, would you mind coming over as well? So, ladies and gentlemen, to my left is Officer Jani Davis. I have had the privilege of being involved in her career from being one of the people on her selection board to being a field training officer for her. And one of the weeks when we were field training together, she was sitting in the passenger seat and she decided to chew me out. And she was right. And at that point in time, I realized I had a supervisor on my hand. She just needed to get some more time underneath her belt. So knowing that, to all whom these presents may come, greetings. Know ye that the mayor of the town of Taos, by virtue of the authority vested in that office by the laws of the town of Taos, reposes special trust and confidence in Jani D. Davis, hereby constitute appointed commissioner as sergeant in the town of Taos Police Department. So right now what's happened is she's being pinned. Her family members are putting her chevrons on her collar, and then she will receive her sergeant's badge from her partner, Kristen. Sergeant Davis was late today because she just finished an arrest, and so she ran over here. She got the guy, she had to crawl around and find him, so she has lint all over right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chief, thank you again. Moving up within our own department, thank you for that. It's a great opportunity and shows that our officers are having that opportunity to move up, so thanks. So then now, as we amended the agenda, we'll go to Town Manager's Report under Animal Control RFQ. Mr. Bellis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. As had been discussed in a work session about a week ago, there was a concern that there are growing issues from the community as expressed by the Animal Shelter Board, and also concerns in regards to our obligations in providing animal control services. And we wanted to be proactive. We didn't want to sit and wait for things to happen. There's a recognition that there is no real comprehensive plan between the town, the county, the other municipalities, and the nonprofits on how to deal with animal prevention and control and animal welfare issues. So I did have a meeting with the board of directors, last one from Stray Hearts, and present to them a draft, which you have seen, of a possible RFQ for qualifications and proposals for national, regional, local certified or licensed animal services providers. And for the sake of the public, that extends to training services for staff, both within the county and town, if the county is interested. It extends to training for nonprofits, for board members, the development of a plan and analysis of our resources that we do have, and the hope that an organization of national stature that has sort of been through the things that we're doing before can step forward with a set of operating standards for all the programs that we have. And two that come to mind is the National Humane Society and the ASPCA. I do want to express that this is an RFQ, a request for qualifications. It is not an RFP. So that is asking informally agencies that might be interested out there to contact us, that we have not put together the finite document that would represent a contracting document. We don't have anybody specifically in mind. The hope is that if you give the green light to this, that we would circulate this draft to all the animal welfare providers and the county and the other jurisdictions to ask them if there are any items they would like included, or if they would like to sign on to this as well. And it would create a dialogue that we could move forward together. And clearly, I don't think there's anybody in the community that believes that we have enough resources, either capital or operating at the current time. And Mr. Mayor, you and I went to the animal shelter, and I think that one of the most heart-wrenching things is to see an animal that has spent his entire life waiting for somebody to adopt him. And that's regardless of the level of care. And the number of animals that we see in town continues to grow. We're doing interviews next Tuesday for an animal control officer, but it is almost impossible to find anybody with experience who's qualified. And if you find them, it's almost impossible to keep them. And I know that when we were at the county, we experienced the same thing. So hopefully this will be a door that opens the opportunity for all of us to have a community dialogue and work together to find an approach we all agree on, identify the resources that are necessary, and then to develop partnerships to help secure those.
Councilor Peralta?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bellis, in looking at some of these things, I'm just concerned about if the entity that responds to this would be providing for animal control, in other words, going out and picking up strays and that sort of thing. Can we contract that authority out, since it's almost like a policing? And would we be able to do that by law? That's my question.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Peralta, the wording actually gives us the option to pick services from one or all of these sort of as a type of a menu. I don't have that answer for you at this time, and that would be one of those areas that we would explore. First, if there's an interest in anybody to do it, and as we said, to find out what authority. I'm sure we can't delegate the authority of prosecution, that we would still be responsible in some manner for enforcing whatever violations were issued.
But that's what I'm saying is, can we give somebody else the authority to even cite somebody for violating our law? That's my question. In other words, can we hire somebody who's not an employee? Can we give somebody, a contract person, policing powers? I guess that's my question to our legal staff. And so this reason I'm asking this question before we go out for this, these are some of the questions we need to answer, or maybe this needs to be pulled. But as you stated earlier, we have problems getting qualified people to do that sort of stuff for us. And that's one of the reasons that we're looking at this. So that's just a question that came to me recently, and I need to look at that. The other question I have for you is, where are we with the ordinance, animal control ordinance?
We were waiting for the county to adopt it and put the final language into it. We had reviewed the draft internally. I had done that, Mr. Caldwell had done that after our last joint session. We had no problems with any of the language that was in there. Tricia Hernandez had contacted me and indicated that she had some last minute changes she wanted to reflect to the county. Mr. Mayor, I think it was supposed to be on the agenda Tuesday, but I don't believe it was passed at that time.
No, it was not on the agenda. It was basically for a review item that they handed out at the county as a review. And there's still some feedback that we're still receiving, and hopefully it does need some refinement. I can refer to, I think, Commissioner Blankenhorn is in the audience, and I think he had a chance to review that document, as we all did. And is that your take on it, Mr. Clark?
My question, though, is, before you answer, my question is, though, where is it for the council to look at?
We can bring it forward as it was originally sent to us by the county, or we can bring it forward with the changes, or we can wait until they're done with their changes, whatever your pleasure is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. I think that the county's position,
That's just in case somebody's listening out there on television.
So I've reviewed it, and I think that there's still some debate that needs to take place. And I believe that the county manager is going to schedule a work study where we can focus on that ordinance and see if we can come to a consensus. I think that, you know, a lot of it is pretty boilerplate, and a lot of it is taken from other communities and is going to be useful language. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to pass one jointly so that there's one unifying law for the entire county, including the town.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Bellis?
Mr. Mayor, I can, if I read correctly what Councilman Peralta was asking for, we can circulate a draft this afternoon of what is accomplished so far, so that we can start to receive input from the council as well on some of those issues.
I think one of the things that also is in conversation we had in your office concerning licensing of animals and that sort of thing. So this is the reason I wanted to see what was in the proposed ordinance. So, because I think those are something that are very important to us to have those in place, so that when we look at controlling roaming animals, we have some way to identify who they belong to or not. If they're not, then take possession and do things that need to be done to keep the animal population under control.
And that's one of the things that I think that we'll look at, because right now when animal control picks up a dog, nobody owns that dog. Nobody knows who owns it, who's it licensed to. And, you know, it's always one of them things where all of a sudden that dog doesn't have an owner. So I guess that's one of the things that we really need to make sure that it's defined within that, the licensing. So, Council, anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bellis, then I'm thinking about process here. 6 lines down, it says the town manager is also seeking permission to contact and work with the county, stray hearts, the pueblos, and other municipalities. Could we also include Four Corners and other concerned groups? And as I think about this, please correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me like the first thing we'd be doing is bringing all of these different entities concerned with animal protection and services together to begin to define the vision, mission, goals, and objectives, and then to process or create that RFQ. Do I have that about right?
That is correct.
So I'd just like to make it really clear to everyone out there that this should be, for those interested, an inclusive process. And it's not just being generated by the town. It specifically states that there'll be intense collaboration with the county, Taos Pueblo, if they're interested, Stray Hearts, Four Corners, the others. And so if you as a dog owner out there have an interest, you too would be welcome. So.
And Mr. Mayor, to collaborate, to elaborate on a point that I received a couple of emails about from the public last night. The staff does not have the authority to engage in a conversation with any other legal entity, a corporation, or municipality unless it's authorized to do so by the council. So for staff to even have these discussions, which I think people last night were asking for, I have to have direction from the council to be able to do that. So this is really giving us that authority and direction.
So, with that said, what's the wishes of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and direct the town manager to start the process to look into an RFQ and begin that process with the entities involved. Formal motion.
A formal motion. Do we have a second?
No second.
Discussion, Council Peralta?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, going along with Councilmember Hahn's statement, though, I'm wondering if we shouldn't be having proceed first with a discussion between the entities to see that they're on board with this, and it's not just a town initiative to go out for RFQ, but that it is a community initiative to do this. County, town, that they're all on board, and create a committee to review this and make sure that it contains the things that are necessary, and also to answer some of the legal questions that have been brought about before an RFQ is actually presented to the council for approval and the county commission or whoever else may be involved in this. Because I think that if we're going to have a unified ordinance and want to have that ordinance enforced, then I think that it's proper that everybody be on board with the RFQ going forward.
What would the time frame on that be though? I mean, the clock is ticking and, you know, dogs and cats are having litters and that just doesn't stop. So, and the Taos Pueblo, I mean, I know from being out there a lot, I mean, they're their own entity, but I know there's a real big problem with stray animals out there too. So, but that would probably be a Taos Pueblo thing, separate.
And Mr. Mayor, as I've said once before, the dog doesn't know when he crosses the border. If we're going to be successful in this, and I think other communities that have had multi-jurisdictions, including Pueblo lands, have found that the only way to really be effective is that everybody has to be on board with one set of standards and one plan in mind that they've endorsed, or otherwise you just wind up cleaning up everybody else's animals that are crossing over.
So Mr. Bellis, with the way the motion was presented and got a motion in a second, would that allow you to do the things you need to do, preparing this RFQ and reaching out to those entities that need to be reached out to bring them in to get this put together? Or?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, yes. My understanding of what we're looking for here is exactly what Councilman Hahn and Councilman Peralta have said, that this was just to try to be a discussion document. It's marked as a draft, so that we can tell people what it is we're trying to talk about, and that we will contact all of those respected entities. I would hope that we can get a meeting together and get a consensus on at least what the problem is and what the qualifications are we'll be looking for rather quickly, because we do agree with Councilwoman Cantu that we're getting to the winter. We know that we're going to have more urgent cases, and we know that the shelters at capacity, and we know that the town and the county aren't willing to put more than the $200,000-300,000 we're already putting into it. So the sooner we get on this, the better. Again, I would like to state that this is only reaching out nationally, regionally, locally to identify what resources are out there. That once we find that out, that this committee of people that we're talking about, all these entities, we can come back in for those that are willing and do an RFP, which really would be the solicitation of entities, an entity or multiple entities to provide those services we identify that are needed.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, then I think I'd like to amend my motion to be more definitive that our manager begin the process of engaging with the stakeholders or those stakeholders that will be involved, as opposed to making it so broad to going out for RFQ. So that would be my amendment to my motion.
Do we have a second to that amended motion?
I'll second that.
Councilor Hahn?
And then for clarification, Councilman Gonzalez, do I hear you saying that step one is bring in all interested parties, create the discussion, and then step two out of that, with collaboration and consensus, develop that RFQ?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Councilor Peralta?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think that part of that is that we need to know what the ordinance is going to be on animal control in order to refine the RFQ that will be going out, because that's going to say what services are anticipated being able to be done by the entities that are going to be responsive to this. I mean, there's a lot of things that Mr. Bellis has said that don't relate to that, but because they're supportive issues rather than operational ones, but it could be that one entity, such as the National Humane Society, to come up and say, we can do this for you, but we don't know that until we have an ordinance in place too, to define what the RFQ is.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilman Peralta on that, but because of the time considerations, I would encourage that we follow both processes, because it's kind of the chicken and the dog. It may very well be that this group meets and identifies that we can't really solve the problem with too many dogs at the shelter unless we mandate spay neuter licensing, and that to mandate that you have to mandate enforcement. So we may find there are things to make the plan work that aren't included in the ordinance as well. I do think the same advocates are going to be involved in hopefully both processes.
Mr. Manager, would that be taken from what's currently in our ordinance and implementing into that, I guess, new policy? Or are you going to scrap the old ordinance and we'll just recreate a new one?
I believe that there's a really viable work group that I believe Trish Fernandez is chairing, and that they worked on the original county ordinance, they're working on the revisions, they brought some of the changes forth that the town implemented last. I don't see a need to duplicate that, yes, but their ordinance that they're proposing is intended to be comprehensive, and it would be, I believe, more expeditious for us to look at that and adopt that than try to piecemeal our existing ordinance.
Sorry, two more things. So I just wanted to follow up on Councilwoman Cantu's question of a time frame here. When can we expect, do you think, when can we project that this work will be accomplished and rolling? First of the year? I know that's a really hard question. There are a lot of moving parts, but give us a goal here.
I would suggest you give us direction. I would say 30 days. Because again, you don't want to be going into the winter not having a plan.
30 days sounds good.
So we'll shoot for 30 days. And then, Mr. Mayor, this may be a point of order here, but because we moved the agenda for today's meeting around a little bit, I'm sure there are a number of people from animal issues that would like to speak to us. Now, I'm not sure how Robert's rules would address that, since public hearings are, or rather citizens forum is going to be long after this current decision. So I need your guidance or Mr. Lopez's guidance, but if there's anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this issue, pending your approval and the council's, perhaps this might be a good time to listen.
I mean, there is a motion and a second on the floor, first of all, and we can hear from it if we'd like to right now. We can open up the floor for anybody who would like to speak on this issue, and then we can still go back to the citizen forum.
If that's acceptable.
Yeah, it is. We can do that.
It's just our public forum is 3 or 4 items away, and we've got a long ways to go. So.
Yeah. Tom, go ahead. Come on up. We'll open it up.
You want to take the vote first?
Yeah. We do have a motion and a second on the floor if you want to call for it. Well, we have discussion. We're open for discussion, so go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, Councilwoman. It's a broad proposal. I'm not actually here to talk about the motion on the table. You know, I share the time frame concerns that have been expressed. And what I'm interested in is the same thing that I've been interested in since the beginning. And I think that, you know, the county has taken some action in this direction, and I think the council has too, to help the current Stray Hearts Board by making recommendations to expand it. And I think that there's consensus amongst members of the Stray Hearts Board and the governmental entities that this is really a good time to get a more inclusive board by adding some members. And so I'm hoping that at our joint meeting coming up on November 10th, we can come up with a number of names that we believe would be useful to the board. Provide those names, maybe 6 names to the board, and they could choose their favorites for. Something along those lines. You know, I'm not sure about the particulars, but some way for the governmental entities to work in conjunction with the current Stray Hearts Board to expand that board. we've got a lot of divisions in the animal community now, and I think it's important for us to heal those divisions by taking into account the experts we have within our community. And included in expanding the board, we need to, the new board needs to get together with people like Penny Wardlow, who has spent decades helping animals in this community and who has built so many important relationships with animal people in the community. And so I think that if we move in the direction of expanding the board and utilizing the expertise we have, we're going to go a long way towards healing a lot of the rifts that have occurred over the past couple of months. I think that the operations of the board would improve, and that we could get a better handle on some of these issues before us. Obviously, as has been discussed, we're also going to have to make progress on the ordinance. And as the mayor pointed out, and others, one of the key elements is registration. You know, we have to make a couple of key decisions in our ordinance that are applicable to our community. And so if we can work on those things in the interim, you know, if this request for qualifications goes through and the county accepts it also, we can see what it brings. But we can't wait. You know, we can't just wait for that. We really need to move now. And I think there's general agreement amongst Straight Hearts board members and the community that now is really the time to move forward in that direction. So I hope that we'll find a process whereby we can make these recommendations and expand the board and move forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Mary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council people, town manager Bellis. I always have to lift my microphone up just a little bit higher. There's a time for everything, and timing is everything. And you know, now's the time. The dust is settled from a whole lot of. Well, we know there's just been a whole lot of stuff going on with respect to the animal welfare in this community. And the dust has settled a little bit, which is a beautiful thing. And now it's a time for all of us to come together, because the problem of taking care of the animals in our community is an enormous one. I don't care where you live in the United States or how large or small your town is. These animals are family members. They're sentient beings. They love, they hurt, they have feelings, and we know that. And that's why they bring out such powerful emotions in all of us. We're all coming from the right place in our hearts. And we have to do that combined with the sensibilities and the intelligence and all the skill sets and the smart minds that are out there in each and every one of their individual capacities. Our board is currently 5 members strong. We'd like it to be larger. That's an important aspect to being successful in bringing those skills to bear. And as Tom Blankenhorn said, that's exactly what we are open and wanting to do. So we're very excited, because we certainly need help from the town, from the county, and others that might bring forth qualified candidates that bring the best skill sets to move our shelter forward. In addition to that, I was thrilled to hear the proposal for an RFQ brought forth by Town Manager Bellis, as it finally communicated something that is so important. We're all in this together. We all jointly recognize what an incredible need we have, and we can't do it without each other. So between the town and the county and the Stray Hearts Animal Shelter and Four Corners Animal League and every other individual and entity out there, when we're splintered, we can't get it done. The San Francisco Giants are not going to win the World Series because they're individuals. They're operating as a team, and they're bringing the best of them forward. Yes, I'm a Giants fan. But that's my point. We're not going to, this is so challenging that we've all got to come together. I'm sitting here with Harvey Yoakum, who's another member of our Stray Hearts Board. Harvey's been lately doing an incredible amount of research by reaching out to animal shelters and societies in various similar demographic towns and communities that might come a little close to mirroring ours, although we all know there is no place like Taos. And one example is the town of Durango, where the executive director of their animal shelter 5 years ago could not eat out in public. That's how dangerous and bad it was. And today they have $1 million budget, and they too are funded from the county. They're funded from the town, and also all the experience and resources that the national entities bring to the party as well. And they're not dysfunctional, and they're functioning to the point where he's even offering to accept animals from our shelter. We need to find these success stories and learn from them and use them, because the one thing I believe in is we can get there, we can have the shelter. This is a community. It isn't you and it isn't me against you or them. This is us. We're all in this together, and for everybody to know, we need your help. So we're here, we're open-minded, and I'm just really thrilled personally on behalf of the community and the shelter and the board for the prospects moving into the future. But on the behalf of the animals and the dogs and the cats, to your point, winter's coming. So please, volunteers and those who might want to donate blankets and anything, whether it's their time, walking a dog, we need your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mary.
you.
Anyone else? If not, go ahead and call for the vote. Oh, we have, I'm sorry. I didn't see your. Sorry, Penny.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon. I agree with a lot of what everyone is saying, and I do want to bring a plan to the council regarding the spay-neuter and spay-neuter law with research that we'll be doing so that we can bring it to you and show you how effective it has been in Colorado and how it could be effective here in Taos and New Mexico. In Colorado, we have taken over 5,000 dogs to Colorado. That's just our organization, and I'm sure that we have taken at least 15,000, 20,000 to Colorado, and they have a spay-neuter law, and they keep taking our animals, and that's our place where we have to take them, otherwise we wouldn't have enough here. We'd probably have to be euthanizing often. And so it just seems to me that our neighbor north of us has come up with a really great plan that has worked for them all these years. And so we'd like to probably propose a plan to go to a spay-neuter law like Colorado so that we can eliminate all these puppies and all these unwanted animals that we keep getting, and we keep taking it off to Colorado. Nowhere else that I know of is taking them. So if we can just stop it and also have fines. I know there's fines at different places. I think Los Angeles might have a $500 fine for each individual that allows their animal to breed. So they keep bringing them to Walmart, and we just don't see an end to this. So perhaps that's my first, or our first idea, along with others, that when we have an opportunity to meet with everyone that wants to meet and discuss the animal issues in Taos, we'd be happy to do that with all of you and the county as well, if permitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
Excellent words, Penny.
Please.
Hi, my name is Wynn Coleman. I've been here before. I'm a former member of the Board of Directors of Stray Hearts Animal Shelter. And I want to congratulate you on seeking an RFQ or to define an RFQ so that we can bring in some help on solving the animal welfare issues here in town. It's not just an animal shelter problem, it is really a whole animal welfare issue. And I think that you guys are, this can too, of course, you folks are really seeing that problem and looking at it for a big picture kind of solution. And I think that one place where that really has to start is strong and enforceable animal welfare ordinances. We have to have a spay and neuter law, and we have to enforce it. And our animal control officers need to be better trained. I attended a meeting last year for animal control officers through the whole state of New Mexico, and there is a high degree of professionalism that is available in that group, and we could get some help for Taos from that group. We can get some help from outside our town, the shelters in Espanola, the shelters in Durango, the shelters in Santa Fe can all help us resolve the issues that we have. And now that some of the dust has settled, I'm hoping that we can move forward with some real big resolutions. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see anyone else that's ready. Okay, call for the vote.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter?
Yes.
So the next item that we moved up on the agenda was matters from the staff, and we moved it to kind of a consent agenda, item A, B, and C. We have motion for approval.
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
We have a second.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. Councilor Hahn?
Forgive me, Mr. Mayor, councilors. I am hoping, it seems like with each town council meeting, we are resolving to hire an immediate family member. And I absolutely trust staff, human resources, to conduct due process and fair and objective considerations. However, I am seeing a pattern here that for me is a red flag. And I am hopeful that as the employees bargaining unit comes on board, that we can begin to address some of these issues in an absolutely transparent and objective manner. I want to re-emphasize that I am not questioning human resources or the process as it is right now. I think, however, that the process can be fine-tuned. So I am just a little concerned that with every meeting we're approving yet another family member. So I'm really looking for a transparent, fair, and objective process. I think the town and the Human Resources Department has done the best they can, and I'm hopeful that as AFSCME, the employees bargaining unit, comes in, that kind of transparency can be augmented to an even greater degree. So I hope I've made that clear. My issue is not with human resources or town hiring per se. I'm just looking for a greater amount of objectivity and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Call for any further discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Shouldn't be. We're on a consent agenda. We shouldn't even have discussion. Sorry about the councilors, but Councilor Peralta.
Because there is discussion on it's no longer consent, but take each item individually.
Yes, sir. So we'll go on to matters from staff. Resolution 1452, hiring an immediate family member of Taos employee. Council, did you wish to hear from our HR on this?
I move for approval.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Not call for vote.
Councilmember Cunty?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilar?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
So we'll go to item B, resolution 1453, hiring immediate family member of the town of Taos.
Move for approval.
Second.
And a second. Discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilar?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Cunty?
Yes.
So we've got item C, resolution 1455, hiring of immediate family member of the town of Taos employee.
Move for approval.
Second. And a second. No further discussion, call for the vote.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Cunty?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilar?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
So, and we move back up on our agenda to under presentations, and it'd be item under 8A, presentation by BLM on Taos Mainline Pilar reroute project.
Mr. Mayor, just before I leave, I just wanted to mention two quick things for people that are at home. Next Tuesday morning and afternoon, we are interviewing for animal control officers. And it is my intention to ask Penny Wardlow and Trish Hernandez to participate on that. We also anticipate next Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. in this room being the first meeting that we will send out that was discussed earlier in regards to the animal control RFQ. The resumes for the marketing and tourism director and the planning, community, and economic development director have been forwarded to the LTAB, the Historic Commission, and the Planning Commission for their review with their recommendations due back on Friday. The candidates have already been contacted to verify their continued interest and reaffirm the salary ranges, and interviews will be set up for the following week, so it's 2 weeks from today. Thank you.
Mr. Bellis, before you go, could you, would it be possible for you or staff to send us out an email on those two items so that we can attend?
I will be leaving to go do that right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't get out of town that quick.
Sorry about that, gentlemen. Thank you for being here, and it's always a pleasure when BLM shows up.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. My name is Sam DeStorges. I'm the field manager with the local office of the Bureau of Land Management. What I'm here to do today is to provide some information, basically a heads up, no surprises from BLM in this community. We've received an application from New Mexico Gas to reroute the existing gas line that's on the west side of the Rio Grande between Pilar and Rinconada. Basically, that line at this point is the subject of heaving and thawing and some, basically the springs that come in and are physically moving that line. In fact, most of it's on the surface. So gas company has come in with an application to reroute that main line into Taos. I have staff with me to answer any sort of technical questions, and representatives from New Mexico Gas Company are here as well. But we thought we'd take this opportunity to tell you about the project. At this point, we're going to begin public scoping with a formal meeting at the Sagebrush Inn on November 13th from 6 to 8. And basically that kicks off our 30 days public scoping, where we ask for the public's comments on this proposal. I think, though, there will be some interest because of one of the alternatives that we're looking at is to route that line right along US 68. So you can imagine the traffic issues that may surface. So at this point, again, it's informational, and if you have technical questions, we have folks here that can answer them.
Councilor Peralta?
Yeah, the only question I have is, what is the route changing? Where are you moving the line from to? Do you have a map of that?
We can provide a map. Again, I'm sure our representatives from the gas company have that. The present line is on the west side of the Rio Grande. I think as you drive down 68, you notice across the river, you can see the gas line, the existing gas line is over to the west. One of the alternatives that is being analyzed is to go right along US 68 in the right-of-way, along the highway. The other alternative is to take it pretty much across from Rinconada and up on the rim so that it gets it out of the gorge or the canyon of the Rio Grande, brings it up on top, and then drops back down into the main line at Pilar.
Is this on? Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Chris Gallegos. I'm with the New Mexico Gas Company. I'm one of their right-of-way agents. I currently have a map here. I don't have copies for everyone. I'll hold it up and be a billboard for you if I may. And it'll show the two routes.
Maybe we can use the two chiefs to hold it up for us.
We have it on our iPad
Is it
for the public.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I did have one question. With regards to the application as far as ground disturbance, which I'm sure we'll have to do the full vetting process of NEPA and archaeological, would it behoove us at that time to contact the other public utility companies to get, I guess, even their routes underground at the same time?
This application is specifically for the gas line. If there are other entities that are looking at, in fact, I know that the phone line is in that same right-of-way, one of the proposed rights-of-ways, and it is underground. So again, Councilor, it's these applications are based on sort of first in time, first in need. And the gas company has come to us at this point because of this existing issue that they're hoping to mitigate through a reroute.
Councilor Peralta?
Yeah, if I could, if you were to use option B, does that include some private property?
Both routes actually do cross private land.
So option A would be along the east side of the highway?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I'm asking this question, years ago I flew that whole area with the highway department looking for an alternate route to Taos for 4 lanes. And one of the things that was of concern to the highway department was that the land within the gorge is moving. In other words, a shift in there, that's just what's happening to it. And so their concern was even taking Rinconada, crossing the gorge and going up on top of the mesa. Their concern was getting up on top. That land, it was not stable enough for them to put a bridge or to put a road in up above, because they didn't feel they could keep it. So that's the real concern that was there at that time, just to give you information. And so, I know that we've got a lot of rock movement on the east side of the road. So, just to take those things into consideration in the route that you're looking at. Yeah, it does need to be moved where it's at, because that's even more unstable ground than what you're looking at in future locations. But there is the possibility, and I'm not looking for gas outages, in other words, if that land moves enough. It did already disconnect that line in the gorge. So I think a couple of times that I know, in going up on the top on the west side, is a possibility for another disconnection of that line.
Right. You know, a key consideration in the construction of this line, of course, is going to be the geology, and so as part of the analysis, that's one of those technical issues that will have to be resolved as the project is further analyzed. So the geotechnical engineering is a key component of where this route eventually goes.
Councilor Hunt?
Mr. Disgeorges, thank you, and Mr. Gallegos, thank you for taking the time to come up. Yes, as I reviewed the proposal, kind of following up on what Councilman Peralta is talking about, BLM is suggesting option A, which is essentially right up through the gorge. And what I'm hearing you say now, Mr. Desgeorges, is that once geological surveying and research is completed, that this very well could change from option A to B.
In essence, both options, including the no action, which is to leave it where it's at, all three of those options are under consideration. And there may be opportunities for slight changes or modifications even within those proposed routes. So at this point, without further analysis, there really isn't preferred, really, is what I'd say.
And then you had mentioned the meeting on the 13th. Did you say the Sagebrush, sir?
That's right. That is our public scoping meeting, and that's where we're going to the public to present the project, to provide information to them as well, and to receive any comments or concerns that they may have.
And Mr. Desgeorges, as you grade out this project, what's your number 1, 2, and 3 concerns as the BLM goes through this decision-making process?
Well, I think our sort of key concern at this point is that the project, if it's constructed along the highway right-of-way, has the potential to slow traffic down. And in other words, it will have to be managed traffic flow through the canyon, which has the opportunity to basically impact either visitors or commuters south and north of Taos. So I think the resource impacts and the resource issues can be mitigated fairly well. Because part of that is going to include fairly robust inventory for, say, cultural resources, the geo-technical resources. I think those are fairly straightforward things. It's the social, sort of the social impacts that are going to be a little tougher.
So I'm hearing as the BLM's number 1 concern, geotech, number 2, traffic, social constraints. What others have you been?
And basically that's it, because I think through our timing windows, we can address any potential, say, wildlife issues that may resolve.
Mr. Mayor, what type of equipment would be used to bore that line?
Again, I would defer to the gas company experts on that.
And I guess for me, it's the concern as to rock movement within there and even just what they do on cleanup of rock slides, the way it impacts.
May I ask? This is Peter Ford. He's our engineering manager there with the Mexico Gas.
Welcome here. Good afternoon. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you guys today. As to your question as far as what type of equipment, this would be a pipeline construction type job. The typical equipment for those types of activities would be side booms, which is a tracked vehicle that can carry pipe on the side of it. Given the terrain that we're going to be looking at here, probably track hose and some form of trucks to move the materials back and forth along with the pipeline. At the river point, we do plan on boring, but we're only able to bore short periods. So the up and down the road and even up on top would all be done open cut, open trench.
How much of that work could take place late evening with proper light?
We've begun this process and are looking to hear input, and so we're trying to develop a construction plan that works for everyone. If we were just going to be doing wide open trenching, that's normally a 10-hour day. is where we normally do that. However, we realize on this job, we may need to look at adjusting those schedules. And so we're open to just suggestions there and figuring out how to do that. We'd also like to get the job done in a timely fashion to minimize that impact.
And I guess my concern would be the amount of rock that you're probably going to encounter within that area. So, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a timely process, but at the same point, the disturbance process. I look again, you know, bringing visitors through here in our, what we can consider peak times. I don't know that there's any real good time with regards to tourism. So I guess I would ask for later evenings, nights, if that's possible with lighting, to impact them, or lessen the impact of the amount of foot.
Councilor Pearl. One last question. Has the gas company priced out option A and option B?
We do have estimates on those, but we have not actually gone out and got.
I understand that, but just engineering estimates on.
Yes.
I would almost assume moving that rock down the canyon would be more expensive than going up on top of it.
Both routes are tough, and neither one of them are easy construction by any means. Of course, going down the highway, we're looking at really where you put the rock. So we'll probably have to truck it out, put it in the pipeline, and then bring back fill. So that's going to be pretty tough. And then, of course, going up some of those slopes on the other side, you know, present a whole other set of challenges.
Thank you.
So does it open up any new customers on the other side of in Pilar, in some of that area, to new customers? I know there's a lot of people on the other side of that bridge that there's some moratoriums on that bridge there in Pilar, weight limits on that bridge, so people are having trouble accessing pumping. With this access, would these people then have a little better access to natural gas?
I think it presently exists, isn't that?
Yeah, the pipeline currently goes.
So people just haven't hooked up, because I know there's a weight limit on that bridge, and that's always been an issue. So.
Yeah, there is natural gas on that side.
Okay. Councilor?
You're talking about in Pilar?
Yeah, on that
Actually,
long bridge.
If you went up on the west side, the way your map shows here, you could get into Carson and that's what it has in all those areas over there eventually, that you can't now and couldn't with option A.
Mr. Desgeorges, start and stop times for the project?
Well, at this point, we're undergoing environmental analysis. We expect that to be done by sometime early spring. The gas company's project window, I think, is sooner rather than later, because as Councilor Peralta pointed out, is the gas line where it presently is constantly moving and is being threatened basically by that movement. So we're looking at probably next year.
Next year or the following year to get all of the details worked out.
Starting October 2015?
Or possibly 16, given our construction windows of when we can get in there and do the work. It looks like it may fall into 16.
So, okay, and then completion date, I realize that's really hard to answer, but I'm going to get questions so I can give people a ballpark.
Well, we'd be looking at, like I said, it's depending on exactly where we're working, but we'd be looking at trying to get that job completed in 5 months. But that's kind of there's different areas that might be we'd be working without impact.
So maybe the spring of 17.
Yeah.
But I realize it's really unfair for me to ask you that. Funding obviously is all coming from New Mexico Gas. And can you foresee, Mr. Desgeorges, Mr. Ford, Mr. Gallegos, any disruption in service as a result of this project?
No, we're working really hard to make sure that doesn't happen. So new pipeline will be constructed, and then we'll have a brief period of time where we're doing tie-ins, but the pipe system is more than capable of that.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Ford, Mr. Davis, Mr. Destorges. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
That's going to be a great job. I was just telling the mayor that since we all experienced that outage so long ago, this will be a great project to address that kind of issue.
Okay, we'll go on to item, thank you guys, thank you. So we're going on to item B, presentation by Santa Fe Housing Trust.
Mayor and Town Council, thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. And I had gotten in touch with your town manager asking if you would like for us to reapply for affordable housing tax credits from the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority at the next opportunity, which will be in early 2015, in January 2015. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the project. We had an extensive planning and pre-development planning process last year, and we identified a site at 125 La Posta Road, which was formerly occupied by the convent hospital before the unfortunate series of events took place there and it burned down. And the 60-unit apartment complex is would be very affordable. The rents that the tenants pay would be in the neighborhood of $250 to $350 a month on average, depending on the size of the unit. And but it does have a range of different rents that are paid. So that may be the lowest end of it, but the highest amount wouldn't exceed $550 or $600 a month either. We applied with the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority last year, and the application achieved most of the items that we saw in the scoring. Had we hit...
Excuse me, in the email, I believe you were going to present the council with a packet.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. There. Thank you.
Because they're blind.
Very good, very good. There's just, I'm sorry. There's not enough copies of this one. I'll just give this to you. Okay.
Was it in there? Because I couldn't find one.
I'm assuming it is, Councilman. I'm not really so. Yeah, that's.
Where'd you find the attachment?
It's, I think in an email where Rick sent us over the weekend.
No, I didn't know that he had sent it to you. I thought it was just coming to me, so go ahead.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, we just replied to all and sent these in the email. And so when we applied last year, we got almost all the points that we possibly could. And they weren't quite enough because the advantage was weighted towards the south last year. The oil-rich, oil boom areas had a 5-point advantage over other areas in the state because they had both very high population growth and very low vacancy rates. And our area had only the very low vacancy rate factor. And so it's a complicated scoring system, as you can see, but I highlighted on the scoring sheet 3 areas where we might improve our scores in the next go-around. And one was just a simple interpretation that was needed, that the letter from the town council referenced waiving the high-performance building ordinance fee to credit the town with donation toward the project. And it did not reference the high-performance building ordinance waiver in the resolution itself. So, you know, it's just, that was just a slip. But then they further questioned whether that would be an allowable waiver. So we've suggested in this backup material here that if we are to apply in the next year, we need to get clarification from MFA before your resolution is approved that determines whether that particular fee would be allowed to be waived. And in the alternative, we would credit you with the pre-development funding already granted last year that produced the plans and so forth. The other area is efficient use of tax credits, and it's a very hard bar to reach to get the construction costs that low, and at the same time have a building plan that does justice to the community, to the design features of the community, and does it far from the centers of the materials and supplies that are shipped, you know, from Albuquerque to other parts of the state. So we got a very good estimate last year, but from Bradbury Stamp Construction, but we need to shape those numbers a little more sharply. And we've asked another contractor, estimator, to review it this year and see, okay, where does the project have to bleed to get the prices down lower. We know 3 areas that it was designed as an artist housing project, and so the ceilings are relatively high compared to other apartments, so that the studio space would be better. The door package in some of the apartments is designed to create gallery space. And the layout of the buildings crisscrossing with residential units crisscrossing on top of the community building caused just a need for greater clarification and caused the estimators to exercise caution, since they didn't know what building supports would be underneath that crisscross point. And so that can be clarified, that can bring that down lower, but we are willing to work with the architect to change the other features if need be. The key thing, I think, is affordable housing, and practically every young worker in Taos probably qualifies as artist, qualified to live in artist housing, because so much of the commerce in Taos centers around art. So I don't think that that's a constraint, and that the key thing is to make that housing affordable and not just acceptable, but something the community can take pride in the appearance of.
Councilor Peralta?
Sharon, along those lines, in the design, you indicated that the ceiling height would be higher than usual? Is that through the entire apartment or only certain sections of it?
It's living room and the front area of the apartments for the most part. In the fourplex buildings, it's everything in the studio and some of the one-bedroom buildings. So at least half, I mean, when it's a studio unit, it would all have the same height. An efficiency unit.
So that height would be what, 9 feet, 10 feet?
I believe it was 10 feet.
Is there special lighting into those areas along with that height? Or?
The fenestration.
I mean, natural lighting.
Yes, the windows, and I believe that we managed that kind of expensive challenge as well as we could by just creating the illusion of specialty windows by putting together standard-sized windows in groupings instead of having an oversized window that had to be specially made.
The size of the units, are they larger than normal because of that studio space? In other words, would that be a cost factor in the sense that you're having to make something a little larger?
I believe that it was somewhat that, and also the lighting, making sure that there was cross ventilation and lighting in each of the units. I believe it probably did affect the size of the unit.
So are these units, because of that lighting and that, all single level, or are they going to be stacked?
Some of the buildings, I believe it's 3 or 4 buildings, I wish I brought it, that follow along the acequia in the rear part of the parcel are 1, 2, 3, 4 fourplexes with stacked above and below and back to back.
Now, is the affordability on this project permanent, or is it a year schedule?
Well, it's permanent beyond my time anyway. It is pledged for 45 years. So it's intended to be forever, but that's about as long as you record the affordability.
Mr. Mayor, with regards to that question, is there a timeline breakout I get?
Yes, the application is has to be in around, I believe it's going to be the 3rd week or the 4th week in January this year. And they take a long time to evaluate the projects, and so they come back out close to Easter with a preliminary set of results. And then those preliminary results give people the opportunity to protest, perhaps ask for, if they don't like their score. And then it goes to the Board of Directors in May. And you don't actually have the ability to start on the project until around July. Then there's a schedule past that then it's attract the out-of-town investors who purchase the tax credits, and that takes place. And the purchase of the land has to occur sometime by late August. And then you want to have your construction underway before the worst of the freezes if you can. So that's kind of the rough schedule. And then it takes about 13 months, 13, maybe 14 months because it's a little farther away. But Santa Fe suffers from the same distance premium paid. And It's not just unique to being as far north as Taos. And anyway, so the construction probably does take a little longer, maybe 14 months. And so we look to see occupancy start in early 2016.
When is contractor chosen for the project?
We would have an RFP for it in July, when we know for sure that we have a project.
With regards to that, I guess I always look to locals being used on anything that's
Absolutely.
built on local dollars.
Oh, yes, and Mr. Mayor, if I could respond. We absolutely want the same thing, but we've tried to achieve that with our own projects in Santa Fe over the years. But we have to acknowledge and be straightforward with you that a few general contractors have the bonding capacity to satisfy the insurers and the investors that are more or less Wall Street based.
And I guess I'm looking for more outside the level of the
But
bonding.
we insist that they use local subcontractors where possible, and we suggest them if they're not forthcoming with saying, oh, look, this is a local contractor that we are proposing in our package. So after we select the general contractor, they bid it out to the subcontractors, but we have a process where we go through and vet those subcontractors and say, can't you use, there are these two different companies locally or in northern New Mexico anyway, and can't you look into whether they can price competitively?
Councilman Hall?
Mr. Mayor, Council, Sharon, and I forgot your name, sir.
My name's Justin Robinson.
Mr. Robinson? I want to thank you for your efforts in coming here today. I would like to respectfully request that this item be tabled, item 8B tabled, for our retreat or subsequent workshop for the following reasons. I feel that, first of all, Sharon does not need a resolution until the 31st of December. So we have some time here to reflect. And I think that reflection for affordable housing is imperative, because I do not see that the town of Taos has a comprehensive vision, mission, goals, and objectives regarding affordable housing. It seems like we are trying to complete a jigsaw puzzle without having had a chance to look at what the whole puzzle looks like. And so where this may be a worthwhile project, I'm concerned that we're going forward without proper reflection. I personally have a need for this to be discussed at greater length. I would like to see what the previous proposal looked like. I'm a little bit concerned that the point increase is putting an increased burden on the town by increasing direct and indirect contributions, both in capitalization and long-term commitments. I'm grateful that Sharon and her staff are willing to assist the town in grant writing and finding other sources of funding. But that approach to me, though it's gratefully accepted, is a little bit nebulous. Sharon touched on it just a few minutes ago, but this contract or this proposal is so tight that the housing trust really has to go with a national developer, which will reduce construction costs, but increase costs to workers coming into town. I furthermore then have a concern about actually being able to hire local, and have a concern about that. I have an additional concern about the site itself. The project design at this point to me seems incompatible with the proposed budget that I'm looking at. And certainly if that's been augmented, I don't have that information here. We do have a number of alternatives that we as a council can discuss. One alternative is to look at bringing much of this in-house, but that would also increase our workload and costs to the town. There are other potential avenues that I think, as there is no emergency here, we deserve the time to talk about this. I have a great need to also collaborate with MFA, and would request at our retreat that we actually have an in-service conducted by MFA to begin to help us to create a vision, mission, goals, and objectives regarding affordable housing. Additional concerns that I have is the exclusion of seniors and disabled in this project. I think it's great to help starving artists, and forgive my crudeness there, but there does not seem to me to be a plan for our seniors in this project or our disabled. And living right next door to one of the town of Taos or counties or whoever owns it now, housing projects, I can tell you that those buildings are in need of great repair. So I think this proposal has very interesting possibilities, but I am concerned that we as a council and a town have not put together a complete vision, mission, goals, and objectives. And I am requesting that we table this, that we bring it up at our retreat, we deal with it expediently. I don't want this to go on, but we deserve to really flush it out, and I'd really like to hear a presentation from MFA. So my proposal, Mr. Mayor, is to table, and let's really go after this in our retreat or a separate work study. Thank you.
Councilor Peralta?
Mr. Mayor, I have to respectfully disagree with Councilmember. This project has been one that has been working on for 10 years, at least that I know of, within the town, actually longer than that, within the town of Taos, to provide for affordable housing for artists. And this has been one of the initiatives for a number of, can't think of terms right now, but of town councils over the years. And I understand your concern, but some of these things have already been vetted. You can ask MFA and they can show you the surveys, and what they look at is what the affordable housing needs are within this community. This is only a drop in the bucket. And I feel that we need to move along with this project. It's something that we've discussed. There was another group that we hired out of California last year to do some of the things you asked about, and you will be getting a packet from them shortly on what they've done and what they have looked at. There's no question that we need to have more affordable housing for the elderly or for the disabled, but all of these have to meet national requirements, and those requirements are that you provide for the handicap in these units. So that's one of them. The elderly is not a priority, but I can tell you that because this is an affordable housing project, you are looking at the artist claim, as indicated by Sharon, as the top priority, but anyone who qualifies for affordable housing will be able to make application and possibly get in here if there are units available. The other thing is that there are certain national standards and requirements that contracts cannot be limited to locals. It is an open bid process, just like we have to do with anything that we do in the town. And we cannot restrict their ability to hire whoever they need to make the project happen. I think what we have to look at here is what our needs are, and I think right now, currently, we need this affordable housing. We need to also look at what we've done in the past, and we can provide that information for you in the retreat. And you can modify that, but I think that you will find that this project truly will fit within the guidelines that you're going to propose, and I think, or want to look at, and adopt. But I think at this point in time, we need to move this project along. We lost 1 year on it. We need to go forward. We're probably about 250 units behind on just rental housing, not including ownership housing, from what my understanding and vision, or not vision, but information that I've received from MFA and the national requirements for housing within this community. So I really feel that we need to move ahead on this. I think we need to work and do what we can to ensure that our points go up, and so that we can qualify for the tax credits to make this happen. And we did vet this process as far as the location goes, and found that this was the highest point location within the community for this project. And so, because we had long discussions about where we would put it. And so I think those things have been done, and we need to move forward on this now. I realize that there is going to be some requirements coming back after we approve going forward to try to correct some of the problems we have with our application, and also look at other alternatives for assistance financing in this. So the quicker we put that and approve that to go forward, it's not saying that this project's going to go forward until we have all of the things in place that qualify and make it feasible. So we'll be looking at this again, but if we don't give this approval today, Santa Fe Housing can't move forward to do the things that are necessary, the research, the mathematics, and the adjustments to the project to make it ready and available for January. That's my feeling.
Councilor Hahn. Thank you, Councilman Peralta. Part of the problem here, aside from the 13 or 14 points I just mentioned, is that the relatively new council, that is Councilwoman Cantu and myself, have not been involved in those historical discussions. And I think it would lend us a great clarity to review that. I hear what you're saying, Councilman, and yet Santa Fe Housing, or the Housing Trust, has stated that they don't need a resolution until the new year, 12/31. So my request for tabling and discussing it at our retreat, which is 2 weeks out, to me does not seem to be a cumbersome request, and it may give us the chance to actually create that vision, mission, goals, and objectives with the MFA. It's unfortunate that the packet that you referred to, we haven't, or I at least haven't received yet. That might be helpful. That all being said, I still feel like we're putting the cart before the horse in this case. And 2 or 3 weeks, I don't think, is going to break a $1+ million project. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could respond, I'm not asking for a resolution today. I'm asking that we approve that Santa Fe goes ahead and moves forward with this project to provide the information that's necessary for us to create a resolution in December. But if we don't give that nod to them, then nothing's going to happen. And when December comes and we do give the resolution, we're not going to have an application available for MFA. That's what I'm talking about. So all I'm saying is that we give them authority to move ahead, to do the things that are necessary to create an application that has the ability to succeed between now and then. And because the information that is going to go in the resolution will come back from their research. And we will not have that problem that we had last year in the letter saying one thing and the resolution saying another. We want to get those things to be in sync. And so this is all I'm asking for, is that we nod, say, let's move it forward. And then when it comes back to us in December, that's when we give the final approval. But they're not going to do anything unless we say it's a project that we think should go forward. And I'm feeling it should go forward.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor?
If I could, with regards to the affordable housing situation that we have within the city, much like has been experienced at the county, it's extremely hard for governmental agencies to run an affordable housing development. That's where this collaboration of public-private partnership really takes root and starts to enable us to move forward, because of the fact that the city doesn't have to put the full brunt of the housing initiative forward. So again, I look around this community and the lack of housing that we have and the cost of real estate, cost of what it is to own a home here, and how many individuals are staying with the family, extended family, don't have a place of their own. And I look at the housing shortage that we have here, even with the amount of units that we have online, it's not enough. You know, we just got out of when I was with Weather Guard doing the Crozier development, and those units were booked before they were built. And, it really, I guess, puts the need out there as to how important the housing situation is here within our community. And I get saddened by the fact that they're popping up houses a dime a dozen in the southern part and northeastern part of the state because of the oil boom. And yet, we have individuals here that are just scraping by. We have 300 now laid off miners that maybe can't afford a mortgage, but they can afford a rent. So I too, Mr. Mayor, think it's imperative that we move the project forward, at least give the nod so that Santa Fe Housing Trust can begin the process. Again, there were housing projects that were done well before my time, but I see the benefits of them now. And they will continue to move forward in the future. And anything I can do as a city councilor to help that initiative move forward, especially in the realm of affordable housing, I'm all for. So, Mr. Mayor, I think it's imperative that we do move the process through.
Sharon, Mr. Robertson, these are rental units, correct? And these will be managed by?
The Housing Trust will oversee the management, but we will hire private management. Monarch Properties manages our projects in Santa Fe right now, but there are several. But the people would be, the site managers that they hire would be Taos residents.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Mayor, they already are managing properties here in Taos.
Okay. And then there's, after the construction phase of these, if there were tax credits available and everything, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, then there would be money allocated for rehab and
for ongoing
maintenance.
Yes.
I for years in my previous life, I managed or helped with 501s, 502s, and 515 apartment complexes. We had 48 different complexes in 7 different states, and that's the biggest drawback on some of these is the, you reach out there 45 years to fund them, but then we need to maintain them for that 45 years. So after 45 years, there's something left. So I granted they are good projects. I'm not. I just want to make sure that when we're going down this road that those are all addressed, so that.
Mr. Mayor, if I could respond to that, I think the reason that the Housing Trust was chosen by the town, they selected a team of architect and nonprofit developer. And I believe that the reason that we were chosen is because we take pride in a nonprofit has the long view as at the heart of its desire to develop a project, whereas the private developers benefit most by developing it and being out of it within a short amount of time. Their profit comes up front. For the nonprofit, the benefit is by having and holding and continuing to make affordable housing available over the long haul.
So what tie do you guys have with Santa Fe housing, period? Mr. Romero down there?
Oh, Ed Romero?
Yes.
Well, I'm on his board of directors of his nonprofit corporation, but we don't have a formal tie. We are peers and acquaintances. They have, as you know, all of the public housing and Section 8 contracts with HUD in Santa Fe. And they have been doing a lot of, they have been reconstructing their public housing projects through the RAD program into tax credit type projects for that has, so you may have heard about that from Ed, but we're well acquainted with Ed.
Okay. So what is the wishes of Councilor? I didn't turn to you, I'm sorry if you had questions.
So I just, I don't think we can afford to wait. This is the number one topic that everybody talks to me about is affordable housing. And I've been listening in on these meetings since, I believe Matt Spriggs was here when I was hearing about this the first time. And I just don't think we can delay. I think we need this more than we need an airport expansion, in my opinion. So I don't want to cause any delays.
Councilor Morocco?
Mayor, Sharon, what is your timetable to get back to us with where you feel that we have a viable project to give a resolution and letter commitment?
Well, I'm hoping that one outcome from this meeting will be that I will know a staff person to work with. And Mr. Bellis contacted me, but I'm sure he probably doesn't write the resolutions himself, and I need a staff counterpart. And then I think we have to wait for MFA to open up the application process to get a formal response back on a question about the application. But I think within a couple of weeks we can have that question answered, and then we should be ready with the ordinance. But in the meantime, I believe that it would probably benefit everyone to have some outreach going on for fundraising so that the town has private resources behind the financial commitment that it would be making. And that's what we were hoping to work on. The Art Place application is due the 1st of November, right around the 1st of November.
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that our new grants person, along with our attorney, would probably be the contact people for this going forward. Help Mr. Bellis with his workload, and looking forward to what's our date for our 17th. So we would be having I would imagine a pretty good report back from you by the 17th.
Yeah, because there is a lot of questions that I have. I see the need in our community, but there is a lot of questions like you just brought up, fundraiser. Where we can come up with the money, and I think we need to move forward. There is a lot of moving parts to this, as I know I've done a lot of these in the past, and there's a lot of moving parts. It could not happen. It's based on tax credits, and here in the north we don't seem to attract a lot of those tax credits. So we'll see how it all plays out. So, Councilor Hunt?
I appreciate this discussion. Let me just ask, let me just make an important observation. You know, the property we're talking about is commercial. And that purchase and everything involved with it is the foundation for this project. So that makes me a little concerned. That being said, what is the cost involved between possible approval of this consideration to the point at which we pull the trigger and commit to the project? Does anyone know?
I think that would be before the end of November.
Yeah, what's the cost?
I mean, we would have all of those figures by the end of November in order to either say, hang up the tennis shoes, or we put them in and start running.
From now into November, getting the approval, there is no cost, correct? Until
Correct, correct. We're not asking for a fee for doing this work. We feel badly because you paid us and it didn't come through last time. So there's no fee. We're not charging anything. You're not incurring. We are incurring some expenses, but you are not during that time.
So if I'm interpreting what we're talking about here, we'll incur no fees to explore this. By the end of November, we'll be putting on our tennies, or perhaps not, as Councilman Peralta says. Those are Nikes, I hope. I still feel, though, that waiting a couple of weeks is not going to kill this. And regardless of what we decide here today, I still, Mr. Mayor, would like to request that the MFA come in over our retreat, give us a tutorial, as it were, and let's develop a holistic game plan for affordable housing. I feel like, you know, if this project is excluding our seniors and excluding our disabled, I got to tell you, I have a real hard time with that. If I'm a young, budding, broke artist, I can deliver pizzas and do my artwork at night. I mean, that's what I did for years. I just, a project that excludes our seniors and our disabled, at this point, to me, seems misguided.
I'm saying it doesn't exclude them.
Yeah, Mr. Long.
I clearly read that in the points. I'm sorry, Sharon. Excuse me.
Okay, go ahead, Sharon.
Mr. Mayor, the project goes for different point structures. The reality of who will live in the project, who planned the project. Mrs. Raines participated in planning the project. It's planned to identify with both elderly and young artists, and you know, anyone who is living and from Taos who needs affordable housing, rental housing. The Housing Trust, in its 120 units that we own and operate now, and in Taos, we made the statement earlier that we have an internal commitment that 25% of our project will be reserved for people who are emerging from homelessness or are otherwise special needs. So there's no age limit on the project. It's not just for young people, and it by all means would not exclude the disabled or, you know, very disenfranchised person. It just wouldn't be 100% people who are disabled, and that's what these points are about. You pick one: family, special needs, or elderly. If it's elderly that you pick, it's 100% elderly. It has to be 100% over the age of 55. If you pick family, it has to be that at least 25 of the units are 3-bedroom units. And if you pick special needs, then at least 20% of the project is chronically homeless and disabled. So those are the differences, and you only get scores for one set of persons. So I see where the misunderstanding is coming from, and we have all of those people in the project, and we're not excluding last year we got 5 extra points for special needs. MFA eliminated the extra points in 2015 for special needs. We didn't eliminate the commitment to serve them. So it's just, I mean, we're on the same page with you as far as that goes. It's just a misunderstanding of interpreting the scoring sheet. And I have, this is the key to that scoring sheet, and I'd be happy to give it to you. You know, each one of these has several different pages that describes how you qualify for that set of points. Okay?
Thank you for that explanation. I still have a concern, which is why I'm asking for greater discussion about this, which is why I'm asking for an MFA formal presentation and tutorial, and that we put together a holistic plan that benefits the whole community. But Sharon, I'm very grateful to you and your efforts. And as I told you before the meeting, I had many, many questions. And now you can see why I'm asking that this be tabled, not that it isn't worthwhile, but just so that we can completely comprehend what we're doing and create that vision. I don't see us as having a vision. I think we shoot willy-nilly, and those days are done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Council?
I think that we can have both. I think that we can have MFA come and make a presentation and give you their feelings and their philosophy and what they would like to see within the community. We did that a couple of years ago with the town, through the Chamber of Commerce had a meeting about that on affordable housing. So that I attended, and I understand, but there's more that they can do. We can also do a comprehensive plan, and this will fit right within that package. So this time, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with this project.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Sorry, everybody. If I'm going to vote for this motion, here's what I need. Presuming there's no cost and we can help the Housing Trust get going, presuming there's no cost involved, then I could support that if we will absolutely commit to having the MFA come in over the retreat and help us to create that comprehensive plan.
Councilor Hunt? Councilor Peralta?
Gonzalez.
No, I'm sorry.
One more.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that we reach out to MFA well before our retreat, as I'm sure our retreat's going to be fun-filled and packed as it is, and it's a good time for the council to meet one-on-one with each other to discuss priorities and objectives. And not that affordable housing isn't on that priority, but I think to have outside presentation during the retreat would demise exactly what the retreat is for. So if we could get MFA in prior to that, even on a workshop session, and it doesn't have to be geared to a normal Tuesday, but I mean it can be just a focus of topic just for that, so that we can get a real in-depth look at what MFA requires and wants out of us. So I'd ask that maybe we reach out to them within the next few days so we can get that meeting scheduled and hold it here.
I can get that done.
A workshop would be fine, Councilman Gonzalez. It doesn't matter to me how it happens, as long as it does happen. But I can't support a resolution that doesn't include that aspect.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I'll add that to my resolution. It's not a resolve, by the way, it's just a approval.
Right.
An action item.
Any further? None? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Clinton?
Yes.
Councilmember
Please repeat what it is we are approving.
The motion is to move forward with this project, also to ask MFA to come in and make a workshop presentation to the council, and a commitment from the council to look at a comprehensive affordable housing program and policy.
Yes.
Did I cover everything?
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you
Yes,
for being
Sharon,
here.
thank you.
Thank you, council. Thank you,
Yes.
Mayor.
Very, very educational. And
Mr. Robinson, thank you.
Mr. Lopez, if you would, we just want to make sure that, just in case I forget, that
Thank
we
you.
make sure that we reach out to DFA to get this brought up and see if we can invite them to do the things that we're asking. MFA, I'm sorry. I said DFA. MFA. Thank you.
Just a query. So our manager isn't here right now. How is this, all of the information from the rest of today's meeting, including this decision, going to be relayed over to him, Madam Clerk?
I plan on doing it.
Okay.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is under citizens forum. Citizens wishing to speak shall have the opportunity to do so for 5 minutes. I know we had a number of people speak under the dog and cats. So I just want to make sure that there's nobody else. And please. And just for the record, if you'll state your name, I know who you are, but.
Mr. Mayor and council members, my name is Ken Manning. I live in Taos. About 18 months ago, myself and a number of other people were involved with the proposal to build a Family Dollar next door to Orlando's. That resulted in a standing room only hearing in front of the county commissioners. And fortunately, the commissioners listened to the community and turned that proposal down. To me, the issue was Family Dollar an appropriate use in that location. The issue was, did Family Dollar come up with an architecturally appropriate proposal that would fit in with the style of the community? They didn't. In fact, they didn't even talk to the community. So, in talking about architectural style, which is what I want to talk about today, this is not about use. This is about what it looks like and what does that statement make to potential investors, to potential developers that are going to bring more economic development to town. At the same time that the Family Dollar fight was going on, Dollar General was breaking ground on the south side. To be honest, I find their approach to be totally unacceptable and totally in conflict with the town code. I think it makes a terrible statement to the entry from the south side of town that you've got a 125-foot long blank wall, a solid blank wall as the entryway to Taos. I think that sends a really negative message to visitors, to other people coming into town. For the newest commercial building in town to look like that, I think tells people, well, the town doesn't really care. They're not doing any planning. They're not protecting the mystique. And this is death by 1,000 cuts. You keep doing that kind of inappropriate development, it's going to start turning people off. So how did that go wrong when we've got architectural standards in the town code? We've got landscaping requirements in the town code. To me, that project did not meet those. But the problem is, the entire length of the facade within the town limits is practically all already zoned commercial. And that's appropriate. I think the problem is, once the zoning's in place, there's no opportunity for anyone outside staff to look at the style and how the existing code is being implemented. There's no public notice in the paper. P&Z was not aware of what was going on. Adjacent property owners were not notified. It just got built. It was approved by the code administrator, whoever that is, and with other staff involved, I'm sure. So, next building that comes down the pipe, I'm confident that under Mr. Bellis's watch, we wouldn't have something like that approved. But administrations change, personnel changes. So, how do we assure that we're not going to have more inappropriately designed buildings that, frankly, can be an eyesore? I think there's, a couple of approaches. One, I think the architectural standards should be revisited. Let me read you 2 sentences. Building elements shall express a massive structural quality and appearance. However, the mass of the overall structure shall meet the massing limitations and facade design criteria set forth in sections E and F. So, massive structural quality. Well, arguably, 120-foot long wall is massive structural. B, buildings shall be designed to be wall dominated so that building geometry is defined by walls. Roofs are visually less dominant in the overall design. Wall dominated. Dollar General is pretty wall dominated. So, does it comply with our existing standards? Arguably so. So, I think those perhaps should be revisited. Second, I think there should be some opportunity. Maybe the P&Z should be able to review site plans. Somehow, it's not totally staff discretion about how these things are applied. I will try to communicate this to P&Z, but I just wanted to let the council know, if y'all think this is a waste of time, fine, but it was a concern that I had that I wanted to express.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks
Manning.
for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Manning.
I agree. I think the Walgreens was really respectful the way they came in. It's not, the prettiest building, but they made an attempt.
They did. They really did. It can be done tastefully, appropriately, and be an asset.
Thanks.
Real quick,
Appreciate the call.
would we have under public records whether or not what process was followed with regards to that?
Yeah, I would love to review that file
If it's in
someday.
the town limits, I believe we would have a record.
Okay.
You're
So if
talking
you-
about Family Dollar?
Yeah, so if you make the request,
Dollar General.
Dollar General, the one that's on the south side, if you can make that request to Renee and just have the documentation, I'll look into it as well too.
I would love to review that file.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I hear the clerk saying that if it went through P&Z, the records then are in your office. And, well,
They're not in my office.
not in the
but you
P&Z.
can request the records, a copy of the records.
Are they online now, Renee?
Those records are not.
And Councilman Gonzalez, thanks for looking into that. Ken is reminding me that some hotshot writer for the LA Times or the New York Times or one of those magazines drove up from Santa Fe into Taos, and as I recall, he pretty much wrote Taos off, turned around and left as soon as he got to the limit down there by Casa de Valdez, saw the General Dollar or Dollar General, whatever the heck it is. Now, they have a right to be here, every business does, but I think Mr. Manning's concern about architectural standards, and I'm grateful, Councilman, that you're willing to kind of look into that also. Needs to be noted, we need to hold fast or properly change rules and regulations. Too many exceptions have been made in the past that are questionable. Thanks.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Anyone else?
Since there are so few of us, I thought I'd make this one. I'm coming back for
You
the
missed the
dog
crowd.
and cat thing.
Okay.
But I just want to say, I am Joe Wasden. I've lived in Taos 20 years. I'm a replant from San Francisco. I've been interested in animal issues, I guess, all my life. I'm one of those. I actually work as an investment advisor, though. I just wanted to say I'm really tickled that you people are listening to and updating your opinions or your impressions of what's going on with our animal community. And we're not a bunch of quacks. We're really not. And I was president of the shelter board a couple years ago. I was on that board for 6 years. And let's just say we need some changes, and I think you people know that. The current administration and board are, let's just say, kind of dug their heels in, and you and the county people are the only ones who can really do anything about it. So that's my piece.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jill, were you here to witness the final conclusion of the discussion early on? We moved it up since there were so many people here.
No, I wasn't here.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong.
I was trading.
Okay, essentially, next week, I believe, Mr. Bellis will be pulling together all concerned citizens, groups, county, town, and other interested parties to begin to collaborate and brainstorm. Then step 2 will be the actual presentation of the request for qualifications. So we're going to work through this process. Commissioner Blankenhorn was here also from the commission, so we've got some collaboration.
It's off the agenda for today.
We moved it up on the agenda, so we already
yeah.
heard it. And Mr. Lopez, I know that before Mr. Bellis left, he mentioned a date. If you would let her know that date. I think he mentioned a date where he would like to.
They'll let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm on the emails.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
find out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen?
Buenos dias, Stephen Small. This is from the 3 November edition of Forbes magazine.
Now, Stephen, excuse me. I'm going to ask you to slow down a little bit because I'm old and grizzled and can't always hear. And
I have a lot to say, and I've got 5
I
minutes.
understand that. And if you could also really move that mic so that you're comfy, because we need to hear what you're saying. And sometimes I feel like you fly through it, and I've hardly had a chance to.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
The Tao of Taos. Can Louis Bacon make New Mexico's soulful ski valley a downhill mecca? Taos Ski Valley is not a posh haven like Deer Valley or Beaver Creek, but an none too chic outlier with an architectural hodgepodge of aging condos and ersatz alpine chalets, and its visitor base likes it just the way it is. Taos Ski Valley attracted only 215,000 skier visits last winter, while Vail, for example, chalked up close to 2 million. Bacon aims to change that. Just don't expect Bogner-suited crowds. A Bogner suit, I just found out, sells for upwards of $2,000 or more. It's a ski suit. Just don't expect Bogner-suited crowds handing the keys of their Range Rovers to a valet just yet. His first step is to run a lift, and I'm condensing the article here, to run a lift up the fabled Kachina Peak, one of the most cult-prized, hardcore inbounds areas at any American ski resort. Pavel Lukic, these are my words, in a KTAO January interview this year, spoke of the airport as a conveyor belt for visitors, tourists from Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, wherever. Back to the article. When Bacon adds that he has developed a, quote, a deep appreciation for the character and its unique setting the character of this place and its unique setting in the Sangre de Cristos, end quote, he's not just blowing powder in your face, I wondered. These are my words. When he speaks of a deep appreciation of the character of this place, is he talking merely of Taos Ski Valley? Because true character lies in centuries of history, tradition, and culture, not 50-plus years of skiing. Character lies in this Red Willow Valley landscape of farmland and acequias that has sustained and fed this community for centuries and can and should do so for centuries to come. Back to the article. Next on his agenda is the ski town itself, where the idea, according to Taos Ski Valley CEO Gordon Briner, is, quote, to create one great village, not a couple of interesting real estate developments, end quote. The word one hears when the village redevelopment mentioned is European. Bacon has been working with the local community to have the airport become a more elite jetport capable of handling up to 45 passenger regional jets. Eliminating the current 3-hour road trip from Albuquerque would be a serious game changer. These are my words. I think that's an interesting observation because the Taos News, in an interview with Mr. Bacon, said that he doesn't entertain individual proposals. And yet, not long ago, Mr. Bellis spoke of having airport conversations with Mr. Bacon, who wasn't interested in participating with the town in some matter. And so my question is, it says Bacon has been working with the local community, and who and what is the local community spoken of? Who's he been working with? Back to the article. Meanwhile, Bacon puts forward 3 major objectives for Taos Ski Valley: to revitalize the core village, to retain the historical appeal of the iconic ski valley, and to earn a return on the effort. I'm not sure how he works 2 out of 3 of those. I mean, why not all? Or I don't understand that claim. Quote, any 2 of these are somewhat straightforward, says Bacon. Quote again, the challenge is accomplishing all 3. From your view, these are my words, from your view, Louis Bacon, high on the mountaintop of the Taos Ski Valley entertainment scene, and it is merely an ephemeral, transitory scene and not a living landscape, Mr. Bacon. I wonder what your views and thoughts are concerning the importance of the living natural and human landscape down here in this truly iconic valley of red willows, acequias, and farmland, this valley of history, tradition, and culture. The real and significant challenge, Mr. Bacon, lies not merely in preserving, but more importantly in enlarging this sustainable and sustaining pueblo and farming landscape in the face of the unquestionably commodifying and gentrifying Taos Ski Valley efforts and proposals. To the extent you ignore that challenge, Mr. Bacon, I say your efforts represent nothing less than an egregiously shameful affront to this community. In 2012, there's an article in Forbes titled Louis Bacon's Bold Mission to Save the American West. He speaks from his Trinchera Blanca ranch in Colorado, 172,000 acres. Quote, this is the article, Bacon is talking about what he calls his, quote, righteous battle, end quote, to save Trinchera from what he saw as environmental degradation. I say the effort to save this pueblo and farming landscape from the environmental and social degradation of commodification and gentrification is also a righteous battle. Back to the article. The ranch is an 81,400 acre Trinchera portion and a 90,000 acre Blanca portion to the north. Quoting the article, it is one of the true gems of the American West, with sagebrush and grass bottom lands that rise in elevation through alpine forests and culminate in the tundra found at the summits of the 3 14,000-foot peaks, Blanca, Lindsay, and Little Bear, that majestically lord over the Blanca property. Sounds like this place. I was looking for a large landscape that had different ecosystems. I'm quoting Bacon now, says Bacon, gazing out the lodge's massive window. This was the pièce de résistance. I say this living pueblo and farming Red Willow Valley landscape is an equally true gem of the American West, as well as a pièce de résistance. Back to the article. He fought an effort successfully to not have a transmission line cross his property. And the article refers to it as the Blanca portion is the signature viewshed of the San Luis Valley. Back to the article. But Bacon, who has spent 30 years in daily market battles with anonymous forces on the other side of any given trade, didn't intend to go down without a fight. He assembled his team and successfully defeated the effort. I'm quoting Bacon now. The more we looked into it, the more we felt like Aaron Brockovich, says Bacon, referring to the environmental sleuth immortalized by Julia Roberts in a 2000 movie. To Bacon, greed was the sole driver behind the proposed line. The only reason they wanted to build the line was to make more money. He says it had nothing to do with public interest. I say to Mr. Bacon, where lies the public interest in Mr. Bacon's Ski Valley proposals?
Thank you, Stephen.
There's more to be said. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
So next on the agenda, we have our financial update. Marietta?
Afternoon, Mayor, council members. I'm gonna just put it for the audience, for whatever audience we have left.
Is it gonna be on our screen too?
It'll be on the screen and then on your iPads also. So the first thing that we have is the September financial report, our first quarter for the fiscal year. Just a brief overview, and then I'll just let you guys ask me questions more than anything if you have anything. September's tax distribution, which is July's activity, was down 3.39% over last fiscal year this time. The most significant decrease was in accommodation and food services in an amount of $58,125, and then in retail trade of $23,870. Goodness. Increases were in construction.
One second.
Real quick.
Councilor.
Councilor Peralta and I are having a discussion back here. The 3.39% activity for July previous, was that Mumford, or did Mumford happen into June?
No, that was June's. So that was last year's report. So this was another, just a decrease of sorts, and it was in accommodation and food services.
Thank you.
Construction was something that was the highest at $32,000, and on unclassified establishments at $12,000. So this is September's report. We have already October's, and I have attached October's report. But taking October's figures and July, August, September, 4 months, I did a projection, and it looks like we're going to be probably 1.5% down from what I originally budgeted. So when we came to council last budget process, we said 2%. And since the gross receipts and taxes more than 85% of our revenue in general fund, that's the revenue source that we count on the most. So 1.5%, which is equal to $127,000 between just the general fund itself.
Marietta, when it comes to that decrease, that 2%, I know we've talked about this before, in that we were going to send our departments back to a zero-based budget. Has that started happening? Have we implemented that?
We have not started. Between Rick and myself and getting positions filled, we haven't even gone to them to start looking at it. And that's something probably now that we'll maybe with the mid-year process at the same time, I guess. But we haven't started looking at their individual departments.
What's the likelihood that, and I wish Rick was here, that we could get them to start, I guess, anticipating that now that things kind of slow down, you know, construction-wise with the city, to start pulling within their own departments, and not talking about fire and police, obviously, but within our core departments at the city, to start trying to make up for that 2%?
We'll go through the thing, and I'll show you what we've talked about. The departments have pretty much cut in the last few years drastically on their operations, but at the end they still returned, I think, a couple $100,000. So I think looking at this year and doing that zero-based budget would probably really help out. But like I said, we haven't started, but it may be time to start, depending on what the decision, or just, you know, the council looking at what the cuts that we can do immediately for now with a couple of positions. And realizing that the majority of the budget is personnel. I mean, I think our operations are $2 million, and general fund and our personnel is over $7 million. So, you know, it's personnel that costs us. So yeah, we'll talk to him about that. So other than that, revenues look good. There's a couple, when I do show you comparisons on this second page, some of these items show bigger amounts, like this one here on Convention Center. Last year we were at $30,000. This year we're at $1,400. Well, that's just because the Convention Center is no longer there. The only amount that we're receiving here is for like the small civic events that we have here in this area here. Same with library fees. We collected that last year, $10,000 or so. We're not getting that But I didn't budget for those, but just a comparison of what's going on.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Marietta.
That's okay.
As unpopular of a decision as it was, and I realize, going back, and I'm sure you realizing now, Mayor, on the county side, how important it is that we collaborate on issues, especially like the library. And I know it was a pretty unpopular decision, but at the same time, I think it was a kind of a good decision. And we got kind of touted for that in New Mexican last year with regards to having a library fee because of the fact of what those services cost the municipality. Again, it's bolstering the 33,000 plus constituency base on a 5,000 constituent budget. So, Mr. Mayor, I don't know how apt this council is to revisit that again, but it may be one of those items to stick on a workshop.
Yeah, Councilman Gonzalez, if I could, Mr. Mayor. Two thoughts regarding the 130,000 shortfall. We are up to 312s plus, so we do have some slush there, and if Marietta is moving forward and considering zero-based, and the council is giving that, then we're heading in the right direction there. And then, yes, our work study with the county coming up, I think that's a real agenda item there. Now, if you were to ask me if I was in favor of instituting library fees, it's an unequivocal no. But I do think you're right on in saying, hey, let's talk to the county and see if we can find some fair exchange there. There may not be. I don't know what their budget's like, but I know what ours is like. Thank you. Pardon me for interrupting, Marietta.
By the way, I think we're at 212s.
Right? 212s. And I was just going to go back here on the ending balance. We're actually we're at 212s.
Not with a downturn.
Well, actually.
Oh, so we did exactly. Okay, so that's why it's 212s now.
And actually, last report I had a miscalculation in the number, and I had, I think, 312s at that time. So it's actually 212s and a few more days, like 4 more days. And that reserve amount didn't really change because the revenues that were going to be decreased are decreased by exact same amount or a little bit more of expenditure. So we still have our 212s and a few, and so we'll leave that to be, well, just for conversation right now. So that's what it is right now. Capital projects. Just a lot of activity in the procurement office along with public works. We worked on several RFPs. You can see there, telecommunications tower, airport engineering services, juvenile justice coordinator, and that's from beginning to end process, evaluations, advertisements, bid openings for Kit Carson well pump replacement and the CDBG Chamisa area improvements, and coming to Placita, which had to be rebid. Not a lot of money activity, just a lot of getting some of these projects moving with the process, which takes probably the majority of the time. No debt service due here. We do our monthly payments to the Finance Authority, and then they take them out on November and in May. So there's just general funds activity again. I included the decrease in the revenue here for the gross receipts tax, and I'll go to the next couple of pages where it's just a summary and you can see that. So I've decreased the revenue so far to take that down to $10,454,000 versus the budget of $10,582,000. And then in the same side, we took it out of planning and of finance, and those are the business manager position, and I'm going to have to go back and talk to Rick because I had the code/animal control position when we discussed it last week. So, and I just heard him say we're interviewing for that position. So there's several positions in planning, and maybe he meant one of the other ones because I did catch that when he said that. So I'm going to have to go back and double check with that. Just the graphs, just put a little history on the other enterprise funds. Obviously the historic district fund, the revenues there are showing a good jump over last year. And I think because we didn't implement like the new meters till I think November 11th last year. So those first few months are making a difference compared to last year with, I don't know how many broken meters. I know Steve had a few broken meters there. And then also we're recording the court fines on a consistent, regular monthly basis, now separating out the parking meter part of the court fines versus the other ones that go to the general fund. So that's a big increase there. Communications, good to report, we're up because the county's paying on time, regular basis. I invoice them and they pay me, so we're happy there. Regional landfill, we had a landfill board meeting last couple of weeks ago, I think, Councilmember Hahn, and I did a presentation to them how the revenues are showing an increase based on the rate increase, but actually the tonnage is down at the same point this time last year, the first 3 months. So good that the revenues are coming in the way they're supposed to, but bad because the tonnage isn't coming up to the projected tonnage that they wanted when we did the actual rate study. But we'll keep an eye on that one also.
Marietta, is that because of more what do they call it? Recycling?
It could be recycling, it could be construction projects, it could be, it's just like everybody at the landfill board tries to pinpoint in their own municipality what's going on. Like some
Construction materials.
construction materials could be up or down depending on what, right now they're down, obviously if my tonnage is down.
Yes.
It's construction.
So,
Activity in town's down. When you see that the people not staying in motel rooms or buying food in restaurants and that, it means they're not buying as much, so there's less waste. All of
so,
those things play into it. Recycling is not out there. Look at the revenues for recycling.
no, they're down like 4,000. Because you're recycling solid waste right here, is recycling's part of that in there. So that one's down a little bit. I mean, not a lot, but that's true. If recycling was up, and it's hard because they have their own little budget. It's within these revenues here, but I can take a look at that. So just a little pointers out on the other funds that I don't go deeply into like I do general fund. We added hopefully you can see it better than I can in color because mine's gray, but just a history of revenue comparisons from last year, just a complete year. And we just have the 3 different categories you have on the top is the gross receipts tax, and then the second one is the accommodation and food services, and then the lodger's tax. So you can follow that they seem to go down and up in the same kind of pattern. All 3 of those 3 activities together, just some comparison to say when usually lodging and food and gross receipts is up, and when it's down, it seems like they all follow the pattern. So that's just a whole fiscal from last fiscal year. And then the other one is just revenue for like 5-year period. Pretty much, I mean, since this is in the 10 million mark, I think up there, it's hard to really show, well, 12 million on that one, for all of the different revenue sources. Same kind of thing, just pretty much flat all the way across for the last 5 years. With the exception of this 1 year here for gross receipts. And I think that was during the county complex time when we got a lot of construction money in. So, where's that page? Did I skip it?
Marietta, by the way, would you do me a favor?
Yes, sir.
As part of the Santa Fe Trust, in her proposal, she was showing a 3% local tax on the $11 million construction project. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that the amount that we can funnel to that will come out of that is 3%. I think it's less than that because of the county-wide taxes that are collected in that 3%. So
right.
Would you give me a percentage of what we can do? Because there's also the 1 1/4 that we get off the state, right?
Right.
So do a comparison for me because I think it's closer to about 2 3/4 rather
Probably,
than 3%.
Because I think the county's at 1.5 and we're 1.5625 and the 1.225, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, that one there? Okay.
I believe, right, Councilman?
Okay, let me close this.
You want to jot these numbers down?
I'll get it from Renee. Oh, okay.
And that's the assumption
Okay.
that Councilmember Martha is talking about.
You have it already. I'll get it for preference, so you can keep yours. Let's see, so I went through the report. I think you saw all of the gross receipts tax reports, but I'll just go through the bulletin item here. Same thing here, was for September's. I already went through the gross receipts decrease of 3.39, accommodations down. Quarter overall decrease of a 6.91 for the first quarter over last year. Our anticipated year-end decrease for general fund, as I said, was $127,937. That's 1.5%. The way I determined that is I took the average of the last 5 years, a percentage of revenues received each month, and then divided it out, applying those averages to the actually monthly revenue. So we were down 3 months and then a big jump in October, but that came out to be 1.5% decrease. So my original budget started at $10,294,000. That's all gross receipts tax revenues. And the new projection will be $10,134,000. And the difference is $160 throughout all of the funds. So I really concentrate on general fund, but I will do individually the capital, some of the capital projects. If there's something that's not moving, I think that equals to about $14,000. And same in water and sewer. So talking to the manager, we went over this on Friday, and we're going to hold off on hiring the personnel and finance, the business manager. That position is budgeted around $83,000 with benefits and salary. We're going to hold off on that right now. That will take care of that part of that. And then the other one was the code compliance and animal control. So I'm going to have to double check which one out of planning he meant, because I don't think it was this one now because I heard different. So equally, they're about the same amount, up to $50,000 with the benefits and the salary included. So I'll let you know when he gets back, and we'll talk about that. So those two balanced out the shortage that we have right now. We're still reserves. This ending balance is still the same, and same as the 2/12 reserve and an additional 4 days over the 2/12. Because we didn't touch that. We really just touched revenues and expenditures. And that's pretty much it. The rest are the gross receipts tax and the classifications. I don't know if you want to go through any of those. Actually, I'll just go through the month of September's classification, just put it up so the public can see, and you can see the increase here was construction, decrease in retail trade, pretty much throughout professional, scientific, and technical. Some increases here, and the big one in food services and in other services. So that equates to the total amount and the decrease in gross receipts in the classifications.
Marietta, is there any budget light items that really stick out to you that we're not meeting and that we're overexpending on?
There's going to be a few of them. Our unemployment insurance is going to be quite high because we had some higher positions out. So that I calculated that's going to cost some. Our insurance premium, we didn't get a dividend credit, so that's going to cost some. But in talking to Rick, there's other cost savings throughout on personnel that we haven't had a planning director, a fixed asset person in mind. That person starts on Monday. So we have other cost savings that we know in personnel that we'll take care of that. So really we're okay around everything else. But we already know that if people say, well, I didn't spend this much money, then I need to use it to do something else, well, we're going to have to tell them different at this time. Other than that, everything seems to be running good. A little bit down, but like I said, it's been a busy part in the procurement office. Everything has to go through there. Every bid, proposal, small bid. So, we've but they're moving. I mean, I don't know how many we've run, probably over 400 purchase orders. So it looks good. We're good. Believe me, I tell you, if we're bad, but we're good. Other than that, and then this is just October's already, because by the time I finish my balancing in September, October has already come, which was a very good month. Hadn't seen $1 million in a while. But we'll go into October's more next month. So when you see the grocery receipts tax and you see it, oh, it's going to be down now with October, I think it was 2.9% now. You know, so that's just really the thought that we keep in is just the 1.5 and that's it, you know. Hopefully at the end of the year, I think last year I did a 4% and we came out pretty much 4%, so knock on something.
Marietta, do you have that October one broken down as far as lodging and?
No, we need to, Sharon is out on training. She helps me with the lodger's tax part.
Right.
So the lodger's tax is 1 month, the grocery receipts is 2, and we're trying to compare the months to months, like the activity and the lodger's tax. So by next month, we'll have at least July, August, September's, because October's for lodger's tax is November. So we just have to get them in so that you can see them all together. So we'll have a better chart with the actual activity for this month.
I just want to see, you know, all that activity that we had within Paseo and the concert and, you know, all those
and that,
activities, how it affected our community.
Right. So we'll have at least through September, because when was that? September, November. We won't see the concert stuff and Paseo until November's distribution. But we'll start with at least December's? September. 2 months. September, October, November.
2 months behind.
2 months. So
Mr.
we'll get in
Lopez, you had a
November.
question?
September and October.
Wait 1 second. You done, Councilor?
No, I was just gonna say is that as far as gross receipts tax is concerned, it won't come in, September will come in December.
Yes. No, September will come in November.
Right, but part of it's in October, so
Right,
you have to wait 2 months.
right, probably, to get a full picture.
No, because it was at the end of the month, Fred.
Okay,
Yeah.
flip over.
Mr. Lopez, you
Right,
had a
because the
question?
25th. Okay.
So on your first attachment, the financial report, on the last page of that,
Mike, I think I have my laptop in my computer. The last page, right here?
oh, maybe it's not the last page. It's, go up one more. Right there, solid waste building. You have 54, and then you have 261, and I didn't understand that.
You're probably going to see, you're probably going to see, this is an expenditure. So last year, I think we probably paid, at the beginning of the year to open up the purchase orders and get these bills paid. It probably is going to reflect next month to catch up to here, because we paid, I think, 3 payments, which is an average about $60-some thousand a month for the waste management services. So next month, this will probably come close to this one. Well, not, it'll be more because it's going to be probably 300 and some. But hopefully last year we probably paid it in October instead of September. Because I think we did have a delay in bringing it to council for approval. I think it was in September, so probably October. Good eyes, good job, Mr. Attorney. So that's pretty much probably pretty sure what it is. Not gonna count my life on it, but probably would. Other than that, any questions? Other questions? No?
Thank you, Marietta.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Marietta, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
And I'll tell you. Okay, so we'll go on to item 12, matters from the mayor and council, appointment of the airport advisory board members, and consideration and possible reappointment of Mr. Don Francisco Trujillo, and from the Pueblo, Mr. Clyde Romero. Those are my recommendations. Council, what's the wishes of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, sorry. I went too fast.
I want to thank this board and specifically Mr. Romero and Mr. Trujillo for their service. And would also like to reemphasize and reinforce the board policy of being open and inclusive for those citizens who may have shown. And I'm really hoping that as the airport moves forward, that the board will be very supportive of our attempts to create an airport zoning commission and our general philosophy of regionalization in an IGC type structure or some facsimile thereof. But thank you to this technical advisory board. And I think this council also has determined something that hasn't happened before, which is the airport advisory board is technical in nature. And it's our thought and feeling that the zoning commission will be different and involve the neighborhoods in that area if we can get that far. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. No further discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Cunchi?
Yes.
So then we'll go on to item 13, matters and reports from the mayor. I don't have anything at this time. Matters and reports from the council. Oh, Councilor Peralta?
Yeah, just to let the council know that I'll be leaving for California on Friday, and I may not be back in time for the next council meeting. It's up in the air as to how long it's going to take us to do our little job over there.
Need a valet? Need a valet, Councilman? You've got a driver, or how about a valet?
No, I just need packers.
Green Day
We're
Packers.
moving our daughter out of her house while they
Sounds like
renovate it
work.
and into a rental, and then how long that's going to take us, we don't know. Because we're dependent upon their work schedule.
I really hate to lose Councilman Peralta's perspective on things at that next council meeting. Any way you could do what Andrew and I have done, and we just call in and...
Well, I have, if that's our November 11th, 12th meeting, I won't be here. I'll be in New Orleans for the Regional Coalition's meeting with the Department of Energy.
Is that Veterans Day?
11th is Veterans Day.
You didn't get the email?
The day after.
That's
Yes.
the 13th.
Our regular scheduled meeting was the 11th, but it's Veterans Day, so now it's the 12th.
Be here Monday too.
And I fly out the night of the 11th, won't be back till the 17th.
Well, we'll have to address that if we don't have a quorum. We will get it addressed. Okay, we'll let everybody know.
Unless we can do a phone thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I know I won't be.
What about
Okay.
the phone?
You'll have a phone, right, Counselor? Yes.
Always.
I should be back for the retreat, but not, maybe not for the council. Coming back the following day, or, I don't know.
Well, don't overdo it. Packing and moving and stuff.
Any other matters from the council?
Mayor, were you able to get a confirmation from Representative Gonzalez and Senator Cisneros to attend the Hospital Care Review Committee on the 5th at 6:30?
That question was asked to me, and I put the call in. I have not got a confirmation of if they're gonna be there or not, so I can't answer that. I mean.
So Kathy will let us know.
Yeah, I mean,
So we'll act as if it's going to happen.
yeah, I called, made the request. They thought they could clear their schedule, and they would let me know. I have not got a return call. Now I'll reach out to Bobby.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, there's something I wanted to bring up today. I've gotten calls from merchants in the plaza who really feel like they're being viciously attacked. In fact, this morning, apparently, one of the radio stations, said some pretty nasty stuff about some of the merchants. And I just feel like we need to put a stop to any animosities between anybody on the administration or the merchants or farmers or the general public, because the merchants are just so crucial to, you know, the brick and mortar in the plaza. And it's not right for people to just, you know, be talking about anything negative, you know, if we didn't agree on the farmer's market or we don't agree on the closures of the plaza, you know, that we just handle it in a way where, you know, I mean, they're part of the community, they're crucial, and to hear bad things, or even in text, you know, in the papers, it's not okay with me for merchants to be bad-mouthed or made to look like they're stingy or selfish or not giving candy to the kids, which is a huge mistake because they've been doing that for years. I just sort of wanted to encourage everybody to be nice.
And Councilwoman, you know, one of the great things is, you know, they've always supported a lot of things on the plaza. They're been gracious to our kids of our community. They've been gracious to supporting, you know, a lot of the athletes in our community and fundraisers within our community. And one of the things that we approved within our council is to, right after probably the Halloween thing, is the Halloween, I guess, trick or treat or trunk or treat or however it's titled, is that we want to put an ad out, a full page ad or more if we needed to, in recognizing those businesses on the plaza that continue to enhance or contribute to all that goes on within that community, I want to say, because it is a community down there. So, Councilman Peralta?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilmember Cantu that we need, as far as us as public officials and as town staff, and that we need to be objective and be courteous and supportive of the people who are on Plaza and throughout the business community. However, that being said, one of the things we can't do is stop individuals from saying whatever they want to say, because that's free speech. And the only thing we can do is say, look, you know, it would be appreciated if you would be more involved in your community and supportive of your community. And that's something that we should do. But beyond that, you know, I can't say about one merchant bad-mouthing another one, or a member or visitor to the farmer's market saying something that's unkind. That's something that we can't have any control over. But from our perspective, I think we need to be very, very supportive and appreciative of everything that the business community does for us, because without them, we would not have a community.
Well said.
Thank you. Anything else under the matters and reports from council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we go into executive session for item A, B, and C.
Okay. Mr. Lopez, do you want to, under what provision we want to go into, just so it's on record?
Under item A, is for discussion and consideration decision regarding the purchase of water rights, which is may be discussed in closed session pursuant to Section 1015(1)H8 of the Open Meetings Act. Under item B, it's pending litigation to discuss two matters regarding pending or threatened litigation, which may be discussed under the exemption set forth in Section 1015(1)H7. And under item C, it's real property, which is the discussion of two matters regarding the disposal of real property, which may be discussed under Section 1015(1)H8. Other than that, no other items will be discussed in the executive session.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Clinton?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Han?
Yes.
Yep.
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilor Cantu?
Yes.
Councilor Han?
Yes.
Okay, turn to you, Mr. Lopez, for executive session report.
Say that again?
Just-
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we went into executive session to discuss the matters set forth on the agenda under items 15A, B, and C, consisting of one matter concerning the acquisition of water rights, 2 matters concerning pending or threatened litigation, and 2 matters concerning the disposition of real property. Those are allowed to be discussed in closed sessions pursuant to sections 1015-1H8, 1015-1H7, and 1015-1H8 of the Open Meetings Act, and no other items were discussed in executive session.
Motion to accept the
Move to accept.
county attorney's report. Motion and a second. Call for the vote.
I would also like to add, and I'm sorry, is that no action was taken on any of those matters. Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Cantu?
Yes.
Councilmember Han?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say,
Second.
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 All in favor signify by saying aye.
Discussion.
All right, I got ribs waiting for dinner.
Thank you, Councilman Gonzalez. Thank you, Councilwoman Cantu.
Thank you.
We'll see you, Councilman Peralta and Mayor.
I will be there.